Keys to the Shop, episode 99. And today we're talking with Stephen Moloney, founder of the Barista League. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Keys to the Shop, where we give you insights, inspiration, and the tools you need to grow as a coffee service professional. My name is Chris DeFerio. I am your host for this here show, and I'm really glad that you decided to join me today. We get to chat with Stephen Moloney. He is the founder of the Barista League, which is a barista competition aimed at accessibility, community, and fun. It is taking the world by storm, and it's actually going to be coming to the U.S. very shortly. So it's really great to talk with Stephen about that. Before we start, we want to thank our sponsors here at Keys to the Shop. Of course, we want to start with Prima Coffee. Prima Coffee is a specialty coffee equipment supplier. They're based out of Louisville, Kentucky. And from the beginning of their company, they've set out to make the best coffee brewing equipment available for the general public and for professionals alike. And their focus on this is curating the best equipment for every need, from grinders to espresso machines and under-counter refrigeration. If you need to upgrade your equipment in your bar, or you are opening another store, or you're just opening store number one, Prima Coffee can help outfit you with the right equipment and give fantastic customer service while doing it. They put a big emphasis on having the expertise to help their customers get the right gear to fit every situation. So I highly encourage you to check out prima-coffee.com. That's prima-coffee.com, and see how they can help you get the right gear for your situation. And my thanks to Prima for their support of Keys to the Shop. Of course, we also want to thank Pacific Foods, the folks behind the Pacific Series line of non-dairy performance beverages. Those are designed specifically for the professional barista and the standards of excellence that they demand. And so whether it's almond milk, soy, coconut, rice, or oat milk, its ability to take the heat of steaming, produce an unmatched silky texture, and keep the flavor balance focused on the coffee makes it a perfect choice for your cafe's menu. You know, with Pacific, you're talking about a company who's a huge supporter of the specialty coffee industry and community, and they've demonstrated this by listening to and serving the needs of the people, the professionals in the community. So go to pacificfoods.com and learn more about the Barista Series line of non-dairy performance beverages and how adding that to your cafe's menu can really enhance those non-dairy options for your customers. So today we're talking all about a competition that is for baristas by baristas. Now we're talking about the Barista League, and we're chatting with Stephen Moloney, who is the founder of the Barista League. He himself is a former barista and barista trainer and events manager, of course, events manager once more with the Barista League. Stephen is also a two-time Swedish national barista champion, competing on the world stage at WBC, and so he knows a thing or two about competition, and this is kind of in the opposite direction of the World Barista Championship model. Highly accessible, no huge fees, not a ton of rules, just a lot of fun and learning from one another in an environment that's meant to foster community, and that's what the Barista League is all about. I'm a really big fan of this concept, and I'm excited that this show actually is coming out on July 10th, which also so happens to be the exact date that team registrations are opening up for the Barista League's U.S. tour that's kicking off in Portland on August 30th. You can go to thebaristaleague.com to find out more about that. So I'm a really big fan of this competition. After talking to Stephen about it, I really feel even more so that it is something that's really great for the industry. And Stephen also has some encouragement for us who are in leadership in cafes and what we can do to help foster the type of results that he's seeing from the Barista League in our own cities, in our own shops even. So let's just get right to it. This is my chat with Stephen Moloney, founder of the Barista League. Well, Stephen, thank you so much for joining me on the show today. I'm excited to talk to you. Welcome.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, you are very busy. You're getting ready to launch your U.S. tour of the Barista League.
Yeah, absolutely. Coming up very soon.
Yeah, the first leg is in Portland, right? 30th? of August?
Right. Yeah, so Portland, and then we're going to Kansas City, Greenville, and then up to Philadelphia.
This has been a really well-received competition. Sarah Allen from Barista Magazine was just raving to me last time I talked with her about your competition. Congrats on the success.
Thanks. Yeah, it's a bit humbling to even hear that people from across this different side of the world know about our little kind of Barista League competition. So when we started toying with the idea of coming over, and so many people were interested and excited, it still just blows my mind that people even know what's happening, let alone are excited that we're coming. So
yeah.
Thanks to everyone there in the States, I guess.
Yeah, it's a small world, and you're doing great things. So I think I want to start by asking you, you have a lot of history in competition and in coffee. How long have you been in the coffee industry?
I've been working in hospitality since I was probably like 14 or 15, but picked up specialty when I moved to Sweden, which was 2012. So couldn't get the same types of jobs I was doing back in Australia, which was moving more into like festival and music management. So I started working in a cafe, and then ended up meeting a really good friend of mine now, who was the then Swedish barista champion. So kind of through him got sucked into the dark specialty coffee world.
The vortex of competition and specialty.
Exactly.
Yes. That's interesting that you started coffee in Sweden, but you're from Australia. Is that correct? I would expect that you would kind of be saturated there.
Yeah, I mean, I drank a lot of coffee, and I thought I knew a lot about coffee, but really, when you start dipping your toe in the specialty coffee world and you realize like, oh, actually, I didn't really know anything at all. So it was great to be close to and working with some like incredible people here in Sweden and Scandinavia that teach you so much. So that was pretty awesome.
Yeah, Scandinavia consumes the most coffee per capita, I think, still.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Now, when you became a barista and working in cafes, how long did it take you to really catch that competition bug? Was it pretty much immediate?
In a way, because of my introduction was through Emil and the company I ended up working for, Love Coffee Roasters in Lund, that everyone, all the founders were kind of competition royalty, or they'd been steeped in competition, so it felt like a very natural progression, like, oh, well, you guys competed, I guess I'm going to compete, so can you help me? How do I do this? So that kind of happened pretty soon after I started, I guess.
Well, it became a pretty successful pursuit for you. You're the 2017 Swedish Barista champion. So yeah, you've worked hard at this. Was it a pretty satisfying journey to pursue?
Yes and no. I think I heard Kyle and Lem talk about it and say, like, you get all the tips, all the tricks to win. So I think I was very lucky to have people around me that could guide me through those first competitions and like give you a big leg up. So that's a big help. But yeah, I mean, it's been both extremely satisfying and difficult at the same time. So it's been good.
Well, it seems like you're continuing in the competition arena with events management in your background. It seems like a natural fit. Your development of the Barista League, how did that come to be? And what from your World Barista Championship, competitions and that whole other type of competition, what from that kind of informs what you do now? Yeah,
I mean, it's kind of, it happened almost simultaneously. So I started the Barista League before I won the first Swedish Nationals. So it was kind of happening along parallel tracks. But then as I would compete in the Nationals and the WBC, it informed a lot of what I loved about it and what I really disliked about it into how I wanted to form the Barista League. What sort of what I wanted to focus on, what sort of experience I wanted it to be like for the competitors and for the judges. And I think it shaped a lot of that kind of drive in the first 2 years of shaping the Barista League.
Okay, so you saw a need based on your own experience and what you would want I would assume, what you would want for yourself, and maybe what you heard other people talking about as well.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's kind of two different things. So I think what I say about Barista League always is kind of like, it's just an excuse excuse to get people in a room together. So the kind of core idea of Barista League is that there's all these fun parts of coffee, from the competitions to doing like collaborations to going to events, but it's often something that normal baristas who work full time don't get a chance to experience. So that was the need that I saw with Barista League. It's like, let's bring that fun thing to baristas and let's make it all about the baristas. So it's a good experience from when they sign up to walk in the door to leave the door, and everyone just walks out going, that was a really great time. I got to meet people. I had fun. I did some coffee stuff, took home some prizes. So that was kind of like where I saw the need of Barista League fitting into everything. And then I guess we can go into how the WBC and stuff shaped how the competition aspect of Barista League developed. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the WBC and the higher you go, the fewer people there are. So there's that aspect. Obviously, you can bring in a lot more people with what you're doing, and there's lots of different stops on the tour. So it's many opportunities for people to go, easy access. That seems like a huge draw just in and of itself.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things we try really hard to do is to make it very accessible. So I guess like you've talked to a lot of barista competitors and you've got experience with it. You see the amount of investment you need to compete in the first place, but also at a high level. So for that first time competitor who just wants to dip their toe in competition, there's really like a big step up to like, oh, I have to like train hours and hours per week, and I have to buy all these like small wares, and I have to find a coffee and all this kind of thing. So that's quite a big barrier to entry for some people, or even just getting up on stage, I think, and having to talk for 15 minutes in front of 6-7 people is horrifying.
Yes.
So that was one thing we wanted to strip away. And then also, I guess, like as you go into the higher levels in the WBC, you have people spending upwards of thousands and tens of thousands of dollars. And I mean, coffee is kind of like a democratic thing in itself. Like the idea of people being able to come together around a cup of coffee, it just seemed really like insane to me that you had this very elitist kind of competition that had more strenuous ties to what baristas actually were doing. So I guess trying to make it more applicable to baristas, something that anyone can engage in and that people wanted to and could easily just access.
Nice. So once they access it, once they come together, what is it that they do? Describe the Barista League experience, the competition itself. What's the structure? What are we doing here?
So, I mean, the first thing is it happens all in one night. So you can come after work, have a good time, and not have to outlay a week's worth of wages on travel and accommodation. And once you're there, we have 3 different rounds for our teams. Teams of 2, 12 teams competing in each competition. And the first round is called Barista Skills. So in the past, we've done things like espresso and milk beverages, dialing in a coffee during the day in your practice time, and then presenting those drinks and beverages on stage to judges, but not in like a full presentation way, but more in a way that you do as a barista behind the bar. Dial it in, pick a flavor note or 2, and then deliver that with some good customer service.
Yeah, don't worry about refilling waters.
There's no water and no spoons and no serviettes. Yeah. And then the second round is sensory. So it's like you should have some sensory skills. We've done anything from matching cups of coffee to a map, or trying to guess the origin, or the most recent one we did, we had infusions that we had colored with the wrong kind of colors. So honey might be blue and lemon might be purple, and people would have to try and guess what those flavors were just by cupping. Yeah. And then the third round is the mystery round, which is our opportunity to do something a little bit crazy or a little bit fun. So we've done everything from speed round to handcuffs to batch brew competitions to all sorts of things, kind of drunk goggle AeroPress competitions. And the idea is just to kind of throw the barista in the deep end a little bit and say, like, all you need are the skills that you've developed over the years of being a barista. You need to be able to taste, you need to be able to dial in coffee, and the more of an understanding and ability to improvise and work with different things, the better you'll do.
Wow, that's great. That sounds really fun. At the same time as it's challenging, it sounds like it's something where you would leave feeling somewhat affirmed in skills that you've created over the years of working just behind the bar in a normal coffee shop job.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, one thing we also try to do is that there's like a interaction between the competitors. So it's not just that you go up and you present your stuff and then have a bubble around you that's isolated from the rest of the competitors, but it's more that you can chat to them, and you have a team from Russia and a team from Sweden and a team from Ukraine and Barcelona, and they're all chatting to each other about like, oh wow, you do it this way or you do it this way, and you can actually kind of taste each other's coffee, learn from each other, and hopefully have picked something up along the way as well.
Wow, that's really powerful. And the community aspect seems to be a huge a part of this. It's something that we talk about a lot. We talk about the barista community. And, I don't know if there can really be enough events that bring people together, but this sounds like a really concentrated dose of community where you can have that kind of camaraderie right off the bat.
I mean, that's kind of the aim. I agree with you. Like the more kind of community, quote unquote, that we can develop, the more fun it is to be a barista, because I don't know, as much as I love being a barista, just pulling shots for 10 hours isn't the fun part of the job. The fun part is the people around you, the ability to learn from these people. So the more interaction we can kind of create between shops or between employers, employees, or just between colleagues, I think the more fun it is to actually be in the industry.
So you're talking with baristas all the time, coming right from their shift work, oftentimes, like you said earlier, to this competition or this gathering. And you're hearing probably a lot of different pieces of feedback that they have about what need this is fulfilled in their life and from their perspective as a workaday barista. I'm wondering, what are people saying in terms of what they're hoping for and their experience leaving Barista League?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to pretend we're anything other than just a kind of party/competition. So I can't claim to have solved any major world problems. But I guess what we hear is just that it's fun, like an opportunity to get all these different coffee people in a room together. So basically, like after the events are done, that's kind of what affirms for me what we're doing when we get the feedback, which is just like, that was so much fun. I want to do it again tomorrow. Like, let's keep doing this. And for me, that's the reward for it. And in terms of what they're getting out of it, I mean, yeah, I guess just getting a chance to do something fun inside of coffee and kind of spark that interest, or like open some doors, or, just get outside the grind of your everyday kind of barista or roaster or job activities.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Just thinking about how it rewards people for the skills that they already have, that sometimes leaving a competition that is kind of esoteric and a little bit, narrow in its focus can make you feel like what you're doing when you do what you normally do behind a bar, it is not as much of value. So I imagine there's kind of a crossover where I personally, if I was a part of this, I'd be energized to go back to the bar and be doing the same things that I just did with this dynamic community.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I guess that's the hope, is that people can take something back, whether it's just some coffee that they've gotten from a fellow competitor, or from us, from our gift bags, or a new piece of knowledge or a new trick or something like that, and be able to take that and make the next day or the next week a little bit more engaging or fun. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
So have you noticed that there are lots of differences to how the baristas approach the same tasks when it comes to a room full of people, maybe even from the different cafes with the same city, but especially from maybe different countries and different cities, how they approach those things and the culture that they bring with them?
Yeah, I mean, I'm super excited to see how this plays out in the US compared to Europe, and the different cities in the US compared to each other. But I mean, the first thing for us is when we come in and work with a venue like a roastery or a cafe, and see the different styles of working and how they engage with us being there and being in their cafe, can be so interesting. Like, we did an event in Copenhagen at the Coffee Collective, and it was just astounding to see how well they kind of worked within their space and worked with us. It was just like everyone from the management down was just incredible. And then with the competitors, I guess we have some teams that come in, have flown in to compete and take it extremely seriously and are very, very focused and and often do quite well. And we have others that just want to come and have some fun, and they often do really well as well. So it's kind of, I don't know if I can pick any specific examples, but it's definitely been super interesting to see the way different people approach competing and approach the different kind of tasks.
Yeah, we're all sort of doing the same job across the world, even as we speak on this interview here. There's thousands of millions of people making coffee right now in different ways and interacting with their customers in different ways. It's just seems like an endless reservoir of culture that you could draw from as you continue to invite people in to showcase what they know and challenge one another.
Yeah, I think it's also quite interesting where people place their emphasis. Like, one thing I would say is a difference between, let's say, Sweden and somewhere with that's where specialty coffee is slightly newer, is that it feels like a lot of the things that were trendy here that have been a bit forgotten are picking up there. So there's a lot of emphasis on this kind of just to pick an example, we don't serve milk and sugar, and we really try and educate our customers in one place. Whereas in Sweden, it might be a bit more we're just focusing on our customers and we'll give them whatever they want, because do you understand what I mean? Different emphasis on different parts of the coffee experience, depending on where they're from and where that city is up to. So it's interesting to see those kind of different points of view match and meeting each other in a competition when people are discussing either roasts or espressos or customer service or something with each other. So
it seems like there's an association with newer, meaning more focus on that coffee education, and then more established being more focused on customers. Do you find that to be a truism across what you've seen?
Maybe. I'd hesitate to say that I to lay any big generalisms down, but I mean, perhaps.
It feels no, I understand this. It's hard to say because it may or may not be true. So you're really seeing culture that the baristas bring with them that they're taking from their cafe and they're displaying it in some form behind the bar when they're at the Barista League. This is sort of an insight into how they operate in their shops, and they've been taught this by a manager or by fellow baristas or trainers, things like that. So one would guess that if you go to their cafe, you would just see a more concentrated version of what this barista has displayed on behalf of their cafe. So when it comes to the retail experience, I'm interested in your thoughts in terms of how we who work in shops, and we may be baristas or we are managers or trainers, what is it that we can do to sort of take a cue from the Barista League and create an atmosphere in our own cafe or even in our own towns to foster that kind of fun and affirmation of skills and development of skills that you're going for with each time you have the Barista League in a city?
Yeah, sure. I'll come at it from an events kind of point of view. And I think you hit it on the head before when you talked about the more kind of community events we can do, the better. So I think just supporting anyone who wants to do something. If you're a manager or a owner of a shop and a barista's interested in doing a throwdown, just giving them that extra time or energy or support to get it done, I think can pay real dividends. So saying I'll donate a few prizes, or here's some contacts for someone that might be able to, or I'll actually give you 5 hours free time this week to plan this event, because I understand the value in that, both for the employees and also for bringing other people together. I think bigger together is it makes a lot of sense.
So because you've seen so much of the industry, both through your own journey and career, and especially now in these concentrated doses with Barista League, I'm wondering, and I know this is kind of a big ask because it's it's a big question. Future of specialty coffee retail, especially because that's where it all kind of coalesces for the industry when we hand that cup of coffee to a customer. What is it that you think we should be focusing on in retail specialty, and the direction that we should go when it comes to cafes in general, and how do you see Barista League kind of fitting in there and helping that along?
I think, if I just say overall, breaking down barriers so that people can come into a retail experience or a cafe and engage without having to kind of feel intimidated. So they can engage really easily with specialty coffee and the cafe and the baristas with each other. That'd be amazing, I think, to try and to do something like that. It's a big ask, but I think that'd be quite cool.
Yeah, intimidation seems to come up a lot when we discuss subjects like this. Do you think that's still a big issue?
Yeah, I mean, it feels like it, definitely. You still hear people, despite how far we've come, talk about kind of hipster baristas who had bad attitudes and that kind of thing. And it'd be good to start to get away from that, where people can go to a really high-end specialty cafe and just feel like it was a good coffee drinking experience rather than an amazing sensory experience. Because, I mean, coffee should be welcoming, I think, or at least in my opinion.
Yeah, well, it's been around long enough as a third place in the world. And, recently I don't know if it's recent, maybe it's just because we're alive during this time and we think it's recent, but with third wave specialty coffee and our approach to craft, it does seem like there is some barriers that get put up because of our fascinations with coffee, and maybe we're a little anemic on the person part of it, the people part of it. But I agree with that. There is some intimidation that we still engage in, and I don't necessarily think it's on purpose, though.
No, but I think there's room for both, where you can have one interaction where it's straight up I just want this type of coffee, and you have it, and your need from the cafe is different. It's coming in, it's wanting some personal contact, it's wanting a drink in your hand and to move onwards, and then be able to dive really deep and nerdy with the next person, or even with the same person in a different situation. So I don't think you have to give up the commitment to craft or craftsmanship in order to make a welcoming experience. I think there's tons of cafes that do it really, really well.
Well, that's a really great point, because you do see that kind of pendulum swing where somebody says, well, I want to be welcoming and I want to break down barriers. And they assume somewhere subconsciously even that it means they can't really focus on high quality coffee at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. And I think our tolerance for good and bad coffee is very small. We're, as coffee nerds, let's say, are very specific and nitpicky about the way it's brewed and roasted and stuff, and that's great, but it's not necessarily every customer who's going to pick up on that. So why not throw in some focus into the things that really matter to the customers? I had a great coffee, but the bathroom hadn't been cleaned in 2 weeks and there's cups everywhere. It's let's kind of focus on the big parts and then come back to the really hyper nerdy, attention for detailed focused kind of stuff, if you know what I mean.
I love it. Yeah, you should have some kind of a bathroom focus on one of these competitions you're doing, when your wild card round.
Definitely. I've been toying with a kind of dish, what do you call bossing kind of round, where you'd have to run around, jump over stuff, pick up cups. Stamping cups is another one that we've played with that we'd like to do. These kind of auxiliary things that you do as a barista that never really kind of come into focus, but are really important in a good working barista.
That's awesome. I really love that. So this all sounds really exciting, and I'm interested to know, where can we find out more about the Barista League, learn about more details, and where it's showing up in the U.S.?
Sure. thebaristaleague.com has all the information. Tickets, team registration is on the 10th of July. And all that, everything is on there. Or you can follow us on social media, on Facebook or Instagram at the Barista League, and we post everything on there as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you for coming on the show and talking to us about community and coffee and competition. It's always fascinating, and it's just a high-profile part of our industry that we're always seeing in magazines and online. And I love what you're doing by kind of democratizing this process. So yeah, thank you for that and just for sharing today.
No, thanks so much for having me. It's been great to talk to you.
Well, speaking of somebody who has participated in many different types of competitions and organized different competitions, there is just something so refreshing about this approach that the Barista League takes to fostering community through the vehicle of competition. There is definitely an aspect of isolation that happens with baristas. We experience our own team. We get to know each other very well. But over time, if it's just you and your bar, it's hard to stay motivated sometimes. You want to know what's going on in the wider world of coffee. And, things like this podcast and, Fresh Cup and Barista Magazine and Stand Art and other publications like that, they do a great job at providing that sort of, window into the wider world of coffee. But nothing can really replace that face-to-face moment where you are connecting directly with another individual who also makes coffee for a living. And there's a lot of refreshment and growth that happens. At the same time, you're having fun doing it. So it sounds like a win-win to me. And the Barista League is at the forefront of this. So I'd highly encourage you to attend the Barista League, sign up your team to compete. Today is actually the first day that you can start signing up your teams for the Barista League. Find out more at thebaristaleague.com. We'll have links to their social media as well. My thanks to Stephen Moloney. It was a really great time to talk coffee and community, so my thanks to you, Stephen. If you want the show notes for this episode, you can go to keystotheshop.com, and on the sidebar, there's a place for you to enter your email address. And when you do, you'll be signed up to receive the Keys to the Shop newsletter in your inbox that features the key points and takeaways from every episode, as well as the links to resources mentioned in each episode. That's a really handy tool for you because sometimes you're not in a position to take notes. And if you know that the links to those things are going to be sent to your inbox automatically, you don't need to worry about it. You can just peruse those takeaways, those key points later on. And it's really helpful when you're looking to apply something to your career to grow you in your profession. So keystotheshop.com for that. I would also like to say if you have any questions or comments and feedback and want to get in contact with me for any reason, you can do so by emailing chris@keystotheshop.com, and I'll be happy to talk with you and hear what's going on and receive your feedback gladly. It's my pleasure to serve you in this format and on this platform of podcasting. Today is the 99th episode, and that means that next week is the 100th episode of Keys to the Shop, and I'm pretty excited about it. We're going to be doing a cool giveaway, so stay tuned for that as well. But it's been a wild ride. Thank you so much for listening to the show. I trust that it's been helpful to you, and I'm in it for the long haul. As long as I physically can do this, I want to provide value for you and for the industry and continue to serve you through this podcast. I love the coffee shop. I love the people that work in coffee shops. And you know what? Gosh darn it, I love you. So let's go this week and take what we've learned about competition and community from Stephen, apply it where we can in our bars, encourage these types of events locally as they happen, sign up for the Barista League, and as always, I hope that today's episode has truly given you keys to the shop.